Okay, in this tutorial, we're going to talk about the integration with Zapier if you'd like to push certain data to an app that is present in Zapier. Now, I will say this is more for advanced users. Not because it's difficult to set up in Segmate, but you will have to have some working knowledge of Zapier in order to, kind of put this all together. So if you're not comfortable working in Zapier or never have worked with Zapier, I would suggest either, reaching out to somebody in your community that can help you or hiring somebody that can go ahead and set these things up for you. I will obviously walk through a setup of one of the Zaps using Zapier, so you'll kind of see how it works. It's not that difficult, but sometimes it can be overwhelming to some users. So just be aware this is a more advanced, integration. Okay, so let's go ahead and just jump right in. And the first thing I want to talk to you about is the types of data that you may want to send to an app using Zapier. Now, as you know, I'm not going to get into the user input and custom fields tutorial too deeply here because we already have help articles that review those in detail. So please go ahead and check those out if you have not done so yet. But if you have gone through those tutorials, then you are familiar with custom fields. Now, custom fields basically define the type of data that you're going to send or that you're going to collect from a user using our user input bot element. Now, as you see here, I have one of each. There's 6 of them. There's date, time, email, text, number, and phone number, okay? So once you have these set up, depending on what kind of information you're going to collect and then send to Zapier, you're just going to want to make sure that obviously you have the correct custom field and or you've created a custom field and have assigned the correct type to it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use email. I think one of the most popular ways to use this this new feature is by collecting email addresses through Messenger and going ahead and pushing those into an autoresponder. So that's what I'm going to show you here first. Okay, so let's just jump right in. As I said, it's not too difficult, but for the less techie person, or if you've never used Zapier, it might be a little bit overwhelming. So let's go ahead and just jump right in here. So what I'm going to do, the first thing I'm going to do is create a new bot. Okay, and I'm just going to call this here demo Zap. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of my text field here because we want to use the user input. That is what is necessary in order to collect data from anybody in Messenger and then send that to Zapier. Now, all the information that we send, I'm going to go ahead and just click in here and just say enter email. Okay, we'll just do a nice basic demo. This may look a little bit different than it used to. There used to be a drop-down menu here that said save to Segmate. That was the only option in that drop-down. That is no longer there because it's not needed. We always save the data to Segmate first. And what I mean by that is I'll go ahead and just quickly show you here in our custom fields report. Just open that in a new tab. This is what I mean by we save it to Segmate. As you can see, I got a bunch of test data here, but anything that you collect will always have here for you to export if you want. Oops, right here, export right here. If you want to access that data at a later time to do whatever you want to do with it. Okay, so that's what I mean by saving it to Segmate. So even if you do choose to send this off to Zapier, it will also save in Segmate. Okay. So what we're going to do is go ahead and set this up. I'm going to go ahead and you're going to see a little toggle here that says enable webhook. Okay, and this is for Zapier. And what we're going to do is we're going to get a little webhook URL from Zapier that is going to allow us to go ahead and send that data on over to them. Okay, so let's first, what I'm going to do before I even do that, I'm just going to go ahead and create my next message just thanking them for the info they're going to give me. So thank you. And we'll come back over here. And now, of course, we want to choose our custom fields. Let's go ahead and do that. Now, again, I'm not going to get too deep into the different types, but we have the free type where a user just manually types in the data you're requesting. And then we have the user QR. The difference between the two is that the user QR will automatically create a quick reply, which is what QR stands for. But it can only collect email and phone number. Okay, so what it does is basically pulls it pulls the user's phone number or email address that they have saved in Facebook automatically, and creates a little button that all they have to do is click it, and then that data gets sent to us. Okay, so again, review our tutorials that I already have made in more detail for the differences between the two. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a free type here, and I'm going to choose email. Okay, that is now email, if you'll notice, is the name of my custom field here. That is the email of type email, okay, because I want to collect some email addresses. This way we can validate that it is an actual email address when someone free types it into you in Messenger and sends it, to make sure they're not sending just text or numbers or phone numbers or something like that. We want to make sure we're actually getting an email address. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. I'm just going to save this for right now. And we're going to jump on over to Zapier. I'm going to show you how this works. There's my homepage. This is a free account. I believe you get up to 5 or 6 zaps for free. If you want to go beyond that or have more extensive zaps, like 3 or 4 step zaps, you'll need to get on one of their paid plans. But for now, we're just going to use the free one. So I'm going to go ahead and make a zap. Now, what you're going to want to search for here is something called webhooks. Okay, it's webhooks by Zapier. That is what you're always going to start as your trigger app. Okay, that's the first thing you're going to do. You're going to choose that. Now, the next thing you're going to have is you're going to have 2 choices here. Okay, and what you're going to click is catch hook. Okay, right there. You just select that and hit save and continue. Now, this is where the important part comes in. This is where it can get techy, but we've made this much easier for you. At this point, what this is asking, it's saying, hey, Zapier is saying, hey, define for me what this data is going to look like when it gets pushed over to me so I know how to kind of interpret it, okay? Now, normally, you would have to do this kind of coding thing right here, okay? And that's what you would enter in here. We're not going to do that. It's no need to do that. We've taken care of that for you, and I'm going to show you that next. So what you can do is just skip this part. Just hit continue. Okay, so now we're going to get this hook right here, okay? And we're going to go ahead and we're going to copy it. There, so I've already copied it. I'm going to go back into Segmate. I'm going to enable this hook. I'm going to paste that in. I'm going to save it. Now, remember, when you save on your modal, you still have to save your bot, so make sure that you always save your bot. Okay, so that's saved. Now, if you notice this little link right here, click here to send dummy data. That is basically some sample data that we're going to send that's going to tell Zapier what type of data we're sending, okay? That was the step that I showed you before that we skipped, right? It was right here. We skipped this step because we're going to go ahead and take care of that for you. All you need to do is click a button, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and click that button. Now, before I do that, the one thing I want to make clear is you only have to do this one time for each zap you set up, okay? So for this zap, right here, I'm going to go ahead and send that test data over just the very first time. That's the only time you'll need to do it. Then I can reuse this same zap as long as I'm sending it to the same autoresponder with the same data. You can reuse this on different bots, okay? And you don't have to send that data again. If you're using this exact same hook and this exact same zap for other bots, you don't need to send that sample data. You only need to do it on your initial time, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and it's sent. Great. Now, if you'll notice, it's going to happen here. It says, I'm going to say, okay, I did this, because it says send a request to the URL below so we can pull in a sample setup. Okay, I did this. Great. Now I'm going to go ahead and you're going to see this. It's going to say hook A, which basically is the first little piece of sample data I sent them. And I'm going to put this down. And there it is. First name, last name, email. So now this app knows I'm going to be sending over a first name, a last name, and an email address. Okay? So it's important to know that this is just test data. We can, of course, test this, which I'm going to do as well once I get this completely set up. And we'll go ahead and just send this sample data right over to my autoresponder that I'm going to connect. And then we'll do a real life example as well. Okay? So that's all that you need to do to set up your Zap. And we're just going to hit continue. Now, of course, that's our trigger, okay? So now we know we want to send some information over to Zapier, but now we need to hook up the actual app that's going to collect that data, okay? Where are we going to send it? And that's right here. You can click it in one of two places here. It's right here. It lacks an action step, or you can put add a step right here. But I'm just going to go ahead and click here. What that's going to do is allow you to choose from any of the apps, the thousands of apps that they have, okay? And I'm not going to go through a lot of these. I'm only going to do a couple of examples for you because each app will allow you to collect certain information depending on what type of app it is, right? So I'm going to use activecampaign. So I'll go ahead and click that. Now, every app in Zapier will have its own set of, kind of tools or functions that it will allow you to do, okay? So it's really dependent upon their app as far as what type of data it will accept. If you don't see the type of data that you want to collect, well, then I'm sorry, you won't be able to use that because this app will not accept that type of data. But this one will, right? So we have a create or update a contact, and that's what I want to do. Okay, I want to create it or update a brand new one. I'm sorry, an existing one. So I'm going to go ahead and click create and update. I'm going to hit save and continue. Now from here, we're gonna, if you haven't had one, if you don't have an autoresponder connected, you just go ahead and click connect account, go ahead and do that, and you of course can test it just to make sure that it's there and it is successful. So I am successfully connected to my ActiveCampaign account. So I'm just gonna go ahead and save and continue. Now, from here is where you're going to do what's called mapping, okay? And you're going to basically tell now ActiveCampaign where to send this data once it is collected. So obviously you're going to see some required fields, and then you're going to see a bunch of optional fields. And we'll go through those in a second, but let's go ahead and just start with our required. A list. So obviously we need to select a list that we want to send this new email address to. Now I just have a little test list here, so I'm going to select that rather. Email address. Okay, now this is where it's important to do the mapping. Okay, email. Now here's the hook. Remember we saw the thing that the sample data that we sent, and notice this is it right here, John Doe, and there's the email. Well, this is the email address. So obviously I want this to go there. Okay, so that means whenever the data from Segmate gets sent on over to Zapier, it's going to look for the field called email. Okay, which we've already set up. Now we have first name. Let's do the same thing with first and last. Okay, this is also what we're sending there, right there, first name. So we'll set that there. Last name, right there. So now we have this pretty much set up to take the email address, excuse me, the first name and the last name. Now, these other ones are optional. You can simply type in something here if you'd like, and I'm going to show you an example of that. Would be for tags. Let's say I wanted to tag this user, okay? On this particular bot. So if I wanted to tag this with, from Segmate. Now I don't know for sure if this actually has to, if it'll create a new one in ActiveCampaign, or if it has to already exist. But I'll tell you what, we're going to give it a shot, right? We're going to see what happens. Now, you're going to notice also there's other fields here that you can certainly fill in, but the data that will always come from Segmate is this, and I'm going to show you. It's always going to be first name, last name of the subscriber, okay, and whatever piece of data you're collecting, all right? In this case, it's an email address, so it's going to go first name, last name, and email address. That is what is being sent. That's the type of information that we get from Facebook. So that's all we can send you. Okay, we don't have organizational name, purchase. We don't have all those that type of data from Facebook. So in this case, this is what we have, and we're all set up. So I'm going to go ahead and continue. Now, you want to send the test contact to ActiveCampaign just to test it out. Yeah, I do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and send this test to ActiveCampaign. And then I am going to go into, okay, it looks like it's completed. I'm going to go into that. This is the list I have, the VS test it's called. And I'm going to refresh. And there it is, John Doe. All right, I'm going to go ahead and actually click on him, and look at there. There's the tag from Segmate. All right, so we've got that now set. We've tested it, all is well. Now, I don't want this test guy in my autoresponder, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete him just to clean that up a little bit. Okay, good. All right, so we've now done a test. We know it's working. We have it set up correctly. All is good. You can also retest this step as well. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and finish. Okay, now we're going to give it a name. And I'm going to call this demo email. And I'm also going to turn it on. Very important. I've made this mistake while testing many times, thinking it wasn't working, and all it was is I just didn't turn the Zap on. So make sure that you toggle that on. Great. Okay, and now you can see it on your dashboard if you want to. It is right here. You can go back in to edit it. You can rename it. Do whatever else you need to do with it here inside of Zapier. All right, so we are good to go. Let's give this an actual test now. Let me make sure that I've saved everything, which I think I have. And I will go ahead and preview this. And let me open Facebook. That would be helpful. Okay, and there is my messenger widget, and we have enter email. Okay, so there's my message, right? Enter email. That's what I said right here. So I am going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to add my email. and hit OK. All right, so I've just done now a user input, manual input collection from my user, and I tell them thank you, which was the second part of my message, right? So let's now hop on over here and see that it actually went into here. There it is. There I am. Now let's go ahead and click into me, and I've got lots of tags on me. And we have, let's see here, from Segmate. There it is, right there. There's that tag, which I'm actually going to remove because it doesn't mean anything to me. But there we go. You can see that that actually worked, and it's pretty simple to go ahead and set up. Now, one thing I'm going to do, again, this isn't a tutorial on Zapier. That you're going to have to find if you're not comfortable or have never used it. You're going to have to go out and do that research. But there is a couple of things that I can show you here. If you happen to run into errors, there's something that's called a task history. And it will basically show you here, everything's been successful that I've tested, but if there's an error, this will come up and say error and tell you which Zap had the error, and you can click into it to get more information to try to understand what that is. Again, a little bit more techy, but it does give you some pretty good information to know what might be going wrong if anything does actually go wrong. All right, good. So that is your first example of setting up and pushing information to Zapier, okay? A perfect example, right? Emails, collecting email addresses and adding them to an autoresponder. Now, the one thing, again, I want to make very clear is that for this Zap, I could actually take this exact same webhook URL, create a whole brand new bot. Maybe it has different messaging, but I want it to go to the exact same list. And I can just use that hook, this little URL right here in another bot, and I don't have to send that dummy data. If you do send the dummy data twice, it's okay. It's not going to break anything. But what I will show you is what will happen if you do that. And let's just hop on back over to, let's see, which one was it? I think it's this one. Yeah, hook A. Let's just go ahead and do that just to show you. Okay, I'm going to send dummy data again, which is totally not necessary because I've already done it once for this Zap. But I'll go ahead and do that. And there. And now you notice it says hook A, hook B. I'm going to open these up for you. It's the exact same data. Okay, so we have hook A. Well, that's one because I've sent that myself. But you're going to see that it's just creating a different hook, which is completely not necessary, not needed at all. You just go ahead and do that one time for each Zap. Okay, and again, I'm going to review this again because this is a part where I think most people might stumble. I don't want to ever use a custom field like phone number for this bot and send it to, if I picked phone number and sent it here, well, that's not going to work because it's expecting you to send an email, okay? And that data will not be there. So you have to make sure that you have the correct custom field selected and that custom field is set up to the right type. And these are all the different types, right? So I had email. So that's just very important and something to note, okay? Excuse me. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another... and actually, let me show you just one other thing here, quick, just to show you that it's there, is in our report. That's what I just did. Okay, that's exactly what I just sent. You'll see the date created is right now, and we save that data to Segmate as well. Okay, now let's do one other example real quick. I'm going to create a new bot, and I'm going to call this Demo Google. All right. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is go ahead and we'll clear out our text field. I don't need it. I'm going to use the user input, and I'm going to say enter some text. Okay, again, very rudimentary example, but I just want to kind of show you this different one. And I'm going to choose text. It's called my text custom field. That's what I've named it. And let's go over here and take a look at that. Let's see here. Where did it go? There, my text CF. It's text. It's the text type because that's the type of data I'm going to send. Now, text is probably the most accepted form of a custom field because really it's text, right? It can be a number, a dash, a letter. You know, it can be anything. It's text. You're just collecting textual information. So a good use for this may be sending it to a Google spreadsheet. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do that, and I'll set one up here real quick. It's real simple. It's pretty much the exact same process, right? We're just setting up a different app within Zapier. So let's go ahead and do that. So right now I don't have a hook, but I'm going to go ahead and set my next message here and just say thanks for the text. And go ahead here, and I've selected that. We're good. Okay, so let me go ahead. And first thing we want to do, obviously, if I'm going to collect it to a spreadsheet, is I'm going to create the spreadsheet. Okay. Now, I've created a spreadsheet here called Zapier Testing. It's in one of my Google accounts. And I've created a header. Okay, it's important for spreadsheets that it has headers on them. Okay, so first name, last name, and the value. Okay, the value is the piece of text that the user is going to enter into Messenger that we're going to capture. First name is their first name, last name is their last name. Now, you don't have to collect their first name and last name in this case if you don't want to. And I'll show you where you can leave that out inside of Zapier so that it doesn't push this information to your spreadsheet. Maybe you just want the value itself, okay? So let's go ahead. I've set this up. I've got my bot pretty much set here. I just need to get my URL from Zapier. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my dashboard. I'm going to make a new Zap. And I'm going to search again, webhook, right? That's what we always use. That's always our trigger. We're going to catch hook. Okay, it's always that. And we can skip this, right? Because we're not going to need that. We're going to go ahead and send some test dummy data over for it to use. So I'm going to continue. Of course, we always want to grab our hook first before we send that dummy data, or else it won't know where to send it. So I'm going to go ahead and bump that in there, paste that in, save my modal, save my bot. Okay, so now we've got everything there. Double check it. Yep, good to go. All right, so let's go ahead and continue and say, okay, I did this. Now let us go ahead and send that dummy data because this is the first time I'm setting up this Zap, okay? So again, I do this one time and then I can reuse this URL and send it to send information from a different bot to the exact same Zap if I want to, and no need to send that dummy data again, but we do need to do it for the first time so it knows what to expect. So I've done that. I'm going to go ahead and I believe it is just skip this step. Continue. I think that's what it is. There we go. Hook A. All right. These are John Doe dummy text. That's the samples that I sent over. And you'll notice the difference here between the text type and the email. First name, last name is the same, but now you'll see this says text, where before it said email. Okay, and that is telling Zapier that it is textual information. This is what's called a variable that's being sent over, so Zapier knows what to expect. Okay, so we've done that. We're good to go. I'm going to hit continue. Now we need to add our action. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to pick Google Sheets. And I am going to, let me see which one it was, create a spreadsheet row. Okay, because I want a brand new row created for every piece of data that I collect. So I'm going to go ahead and save and continue. I have already hooked up my Google account. So I'll go forward. Now it's going to ask me a few things. Okay, the first thing is, what spreadsheet do you want? So I'm going to go ahead, click that, and it's going to be Zapier Testing. I believe that's the correct one. Let me make sure. Yep, Zapier Testing. And the worksheet. Okay, so mine is just called Sheet 1 because I didn't name it. I probably should have. As a matter of fact, let's just do this. Let's do it now. Let's see what happens, how we update that. We'll call this Demo. That's fine. Now, if I were to go back in here, well, it's not called Sheet 1 anymore, so that would be wrong, right? There it is, Demo. Okay, we want to make sure that we make that correction if we're editing while setting up a Zap. You can also click Refresh Fields, and that will go out and grab anything new as well, but it did it for me automatically, which was great. Now we're going to have value, okay, because it wants to know what the value is. So we're going to set that as here. This is our value. This is the text. So we go ahead and set that. I'm going to collect the first name and last name in this case, so I'm going to go ahead and set that. But like I said, you don't have to. These are optional fields. Now, obviously, you'd want to set the value or you're pretty much collecting nothing. But you don't have to collect their first name, last name, or you can collect one or the other. It's completely up to you what you want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and continue. Wonderful. Okay, so we have some test data here. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do a test here just to make sure everything works. Okay, it says it was created. Let's prove it. Yep, there it is. Dummy text, John Doe. Fantastic. All right, now let's go ahead, go back here, finish, name it, and this will be demo text. We'll call it demo Google. And of course, make sure that you turn your Zap on. Don't make the same mistake I made so many times and bugged my developers about it because it wasn't working and all I had to do was turn it on. So go ahead, we're good there. So we can view it on our board. There it is right there. Let's go ahead and head back. Everything seems to be set up here. We're good to go. I'm just going to double save here just to make sure. And let's go ahead and do a little preview. Head on over to Facebook. Enter some text. Okay. Did it work? Thanks for the text. Now, it can take a minute for things to show up, but okay, that was really quick. Did it work? Keith Gosnell, there I am. That's how you send information to a spreadsheet, okay? So, heading back over here, it wasn't so bad, huh? I know it's more for advanced users. Again, I think the more advanced part comes into just learning Zapier if you've never used it. But as far as Segmate goes, very simple to use. Just make sure you enable it, grab that hook, send that test dummy data for the first time you set up a Zap. Very important to remember to do that, and everything should be working out for you. So if you have any questions, you can always email us at support@segmateapp.com. Thanks for joining me.